Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we take complex, cutting-edge research and distill it down into the facts and insights you need to be truly well-informed. Today, we are wrestling with a topic that's central to almost every ambition, every failed diet, and every unfinished project: willpower.
Right. And self-control is so much more than just, resisting a dessert. It's this profound ability to line up what you're doing right now with your long-term goal.
Delaying gratification, staying focused.
Exactly. And the research on this is really clear. Strong self-control is linked to, all sorts of amazing outcomes: better health, success at work, even financial stability.
And for decades, there was this one hugely powerful idea that just defined how everyone understood self-control. It was called ego depletion.
Also known as the strength model or the resource depletion model.
And it wasn't just suggesting willpower was important. It framed it as a literal finite resource, like a muscle that gets tired or, a fuel tank that's running low.
And this wasn't some niche theory. The influence was just staggering. The original paper that reported this effect, it's been cited over 5,000 times.
Wow.
It fundamentally changed how we approached productivity, dieting, you name it. The idea was simple. You exert self-control, you use up this internal resource, and then you're more likely to fail at the next task.
Okay, so let's unpack this. This is the central conflict for today. Is this mental resource actually real? Or is that feeling of fatigue we get after a long day just an illusion, maybe driven by something else?
Exactly.
Our mission today is to dive deep into the evidence that built up this resource model and then, slam it up against the massive replication studies and the new motivational theories that have really challenged its existence.
To really get why that original model was so powerful, you have to understand its 5 core assumptions.
Okay.
First, that self-control strength is necessary for you to do anything focused. Second, it's limited. There's only so much of it.
A finite tank.
A finite tank. Third, and this is the really crucial part, the resource is used across all self-control tasks. It's domain general.
So resisting a cookie and trying to solve a puzzle dip into the same well.
Precisely. Fourth, your performance depends on how much is left in that well. And fifth, using your self-control drains it.
And the classic evidence for this is the famous 1998 radish and chocolate experiment. Just picture this scene.
Right.
You have hungry participants, and they walk into a lab that is intentionally filled with the aroma of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies.
So they're already tempted, and right next to this plate of cookies is, a bowl of boring, dry radishes.
And in the main group, the participants are told, eat the radishes, but you have to resist the cookies. A pure active impulse control.
Right, a real test. Then after that, they're given a second, totally unrelated task. They have to try and solve these geometric puzzles that were actually designed to be impossible.
So the real measure was just persistence. How long before they gave up?
Exactly. How long did they keep trying?
And the numbers were just stark. The group that had to force themselves to eat radishes instead of chocolate, they showed way less persistence.
On average, they only lasted about 8.5 minutes.
8.5 minutes. And they tried, around 19 puzzles?
Now, compare that to the other groups. The ones who got to eat the chocolate cookies, who didn't have to exert that initial control, they persisted for almost 19 minutes.
Double the time.
Pretty much. The conclusion seemed inescapable. That initial act of saying no to the cookie drained some kind of psychic energy, some shared resource, and it directly hurt their performance on something completely different.
But isn't that almost too neat? The idea that the brain uses one single resource for resisting food and for doing complex geometry, what was the thinking behind that?
That domain general nature was the absolute foundation of the model. The claim was that it didn't matter what the first task was: resisting an impulse, regulating an emotion, suppressing a thought, making a hard choice.
It all came from the same tank.
Exactly. And it didn't matter what the second task was either. Physical stamina, solving anagrams, simple persistence, it all got worse. It pointed to this single universal gas tank for the self.
So that was the rule. But then science started holding that rule up to a much brighter, much more rigorous light. And that's where things get really interesting.
Absolutely. The theory became so big, so influential, that the scientific community really felt it needed to be verified with, the highest possible standards.
So these are the large-scale replication efforts, the RRRs.
Right. Registered replication reports. These are designed to be methodologically bulletproof. One of the biggest was in 2016, a multi-lab effort across 23 different labs with over 2,000 participants.
23 labs, all working together. So what did they find about this universal gas tank?
They found that the ego depletion effect was Well, strikingly small. I mean, practically close to zero when they used really reliable measures.
And that was a huge blow to the theory.
A massive blow. It just completely contradicted what the earlier literature had suggested.
Can we break those numbers down? Because the stats here really tell the story. The older analyses suggested a pretty big effect size, something like a D equals 0.62.
Right, which is a medium to large effect. It suggests the difference between the groups is robust, it's meaningful in the real world, like, wearing a seatbelt saves lives has a huge effect size.
Okay, so what did the big replication find?
It found the true effect was probably closer to a D of 0.10 to 0.20.
Which means what in practical terms?
It means that while the effect might exist, statistically, it's so small that it's pretty much meaningless for your daily life. It's the difference between seatbelts save lives and wearing this specific brand of socks makes you walk 0.1% faster.
And a reanalysis of the old data basically explained why the original numbers look so good. Publication bias.
The file drawer problem. For years, studies that found a big, significant depletion effect got published. The studies that found nothing, they just got stuck in a file drawer and never saw the light of day.
So that skewed the entire field's perception of how strong this effect really was.
Massively. It inflated that original number.
Now, this skepticism, of course, led to some pretty intense debates about the methods. Critics of the replications started to argue that the tasks they used didn't actually cause real ego depletion.
Yeah, they argued that things like the letter crossing tasks weren't strong enough. The participants didn't have to override a really deep pre-existing habit.
So the argument was you didn't actually manage to drain the tank in the first place, which is why you didn't see an effect.
That was the core of the critique. And then even when they tried different ways to measure the outcome of depletion, the measures themselves came under fire.
You mentioned the cognitive estimation test, the CET.
Yeah.
What was the problem there?
Oh, the issue was how it was scored. It's just so arbitrary. The test asks you questions like, how many seeds are in a watermelon?
A question nobody knows the answer to.
Exactly. And your score was based on how close your guess was to the average guess of a small group of, college students.
So you're not measuring some objective cognitive power. You're measuring how close your guess is to another group's guess. It's a measure of consensus, not strength.
Precisely. The whole thing was just too shaky. If you can't even reliably measure the fuel in the tank, how can you claim the tank is empty?
Okay, so if the idea of a fuel tank literally running dry is on scientifically shaky ground, what's the alternative? Why do we feel so exhausted and quit hard tasks?
This is the big pivot. We move from a resource problem to, a motivation or a signaling problem.
A shift in thinking.
A huge shift. One of the main alternatives is called the process model. It says ego depletion isn't about running out of fuel, it's about motivated disengagement.
Yeah.
Meaning that effortful control just feels bad, it's aversive, and that bad feeling builds up. After a while, you just become more motivated to stop doing the hard thing and switch to something that feels good right now.
You switch from have-to goals to want-to goals.
You got it.
And this leads us to one of the most incredible findings in this whole area, the power of your own mindset. The idea that if you just believe your willpower is limited, it actually acts that way.
This is truly mind-bending. Studies show that people's beliefs about willpower completely changed how their bodies responded to things like sugar.
How so?
Only the people who said they believed willpower was a limited resource got a performance boost from a sugary drink after a hard task.
Wait, hold on. The sugar only worked if you already believed in the empty tank theory.
Exactly. It's like a physiological placebo. They believed their tank needed refilling, so the sugar worked. It turns the whole argument on its head. The mind is in control, not the fuel.
So what are the people who didn't believe willpower was limited?
They showed high performance whether they got the sugar or not. And this isn't just in the lab. People with this non-limited mindset report being more effective in their daily lives, even after a really demanding day.
Okay, so mindset is a huge piece of the puzzle. But what about that real physical feeling of exhaustion? That brings us to the opportunity cost model.
Right. This model treats that feeling not as a fuel gauge, but as a really sophisticated signal from your brain.
A signal about what?
It sees that feeling of mental effort as your brain calculating the opportunity cost of what you're doing. It's like an internal accountant weighing the cognitive energy you're spending against what you could be doing instead.
So that feeling of, I just can't do this anymore, is actually adaptive. It's a signal to maybe reallocate your energy somewhere more Beneficial.
That's the idea. The feeling is a signal to reassess, not a sign that you've hit a hard physical limit. Your brain is asking, is this effort worth it, or is there something better I could be doing with this energy right now?
So let's connect that to the brain itself. What parts of the brain are running these calculations?
Well, these effortful tasks, things like decision-making and cognitive control, they reliably light up the prefrontal executive network
That's the lateral prefrontal cortex.
and the anterior cingulate cortex. The ACC is thought to be central to this whole process of tracking costs and monitoring for errors.
And when our cell control starts to fail, you can actually see that change in the neural signals.
Oh, yes. When performance drops, the signals change. For instance, there's something called the error-related negativity, or ERN. It's a brainwave that spikes right after you make a mistake.
So your brain is flagging, oops, got that one wrong.
Exactly. But after a depleting task, that ERN signal gets weaker. Your brain basically starts to care less about its own mistakes. It's disengaging.
It's reducing its vigilance.
Right. But here's the absolute clincher that supports this cost-benefit idea. You can completely reverse these performance drops and the brain activity changes just by offering an incentive.
You mean like offering someone cash?
Exactly. If you offer someone money to do better on the next hard task, suddenly their performance and the brain's error monitoring signals bounce right back up, even if they were supposedly depleted.
That just doesn't fit with an empty fuel tank model. You can't instantly refill a gas tank with a $5 bill.
But you can instantly change the cost-benefit calculation. If the reward goes up, the brain is suddenly willing to pay the cost of the effort.
This changes everything. We should stop worrying about refueling the tank and start thinking about remotivating the actor or just planning better.
That's the practical takeaway. The strategies that work all focus on shifting that internal calculation.
So what are some of those strategies? What can you, the listener, actually do?
Well, one big one is to inject motivation and enjoyment. If you can find a way to make the task more fun, or if there's a clear reward, the perceived cost goes way down. Humor, music, cash, they all work.
And obviously the mindset piece is huge.
It's probably the most powerful tool. Actively cultivating the belief that your willpower is not a limited resource makes you more resilient. You stop feeling guilty about being depleted and start feeling empowered to find your motivation.
And finally, planning ahead. That seems to take the moment-to-moment struggle out of the equation.
Yes, using implementation intentions. Those if-then plans. You decide ahead of time. If I feel exhausted after this meeting, then I will immediately walk outside for 2 minutes.
You automate the response.
You automate it. It bypasses the need to use willpower when that aversive signal is screaming at you. And another thing is to simply reduce your demands. Focus on one major goal instead of trying to juggle 5 hard things at once. That preserves your ability to tolerate effort when it really counts. So the science has really moved away from that simple empty tank metaphor. The data